Joining me now, Eben Novi-Williams, deputy editor at Sportico. You broke the news, man. What can you tell us about the agreement in place to buy the Portland Trail Blazers?
A bit of a surprise here. We've obviously known this team was for sale for quite a while. Paul Allen's estate, after Paul Allen passed away, he made it clear that he wanted his sports assets, including the Seahawks and the Trailblazers, to be sold and the proceeds going to philanthropy. But Tom Dundon was not on the list of people that I would have expected to be the buyer here. But he is the owner of the Carolina Hurricanes, and he's leading a group of a few other wealthy individuals buying the Trailblazers at a deal that values the team roughly in the 4.25 billion dollar range.
What stood out to you about that price and maybe what you thought it was going to be going in and Sportico's valuations?
Yeah, so our number is a little bit lower. We have it at 3.7. It's not uncommon for teams to sell for higher than our number. 4.25 is maybe a little bit lower than I would have thought. I think the big question here that I'm sure a lot of folks in Portland are asking right now is what is the likelihood that this team moves? And having a buyer, a billionaire whose main other sports assets are 3,000 miles away is maybe not the most ideal situation. So I think that's the big question is as this group comes in and I'm sure they'll start at the beginning saying all the right things about believing in Portland and wanting to stay, and they have to figure out the arena situation. But I think that's the big question is now that this deal is done, what does it mean for the long-term future of the Trailblazers in Oregon?
In terms of the timeline to getting it across the finish line, how soon do you think this is buttoned up?
I think this will happen fairly quickly. Just to give you a reference, the Celtics deal was announced 3 or 4 months ago, and NBA owners are voting on that in this week or next week. So I think it's a few months away. That process, there's a lot of background on who the buyers are. The fact that Tom Dundon has already been through that process with the NHL and is obviously a well-known sports owner at this point, I think that speeds things along a little bit. I can't imagine there's going to be any real concern about him or his financing. So I would imagine that this takes a few months, and some point in the middle of the NBA season, this happens, this changes hands, the first payment is made, and then Tom Dundon's group is the new owner of the team.
Yeah, what more can you tell us about Tom Dundon and the group?
So the group is Tom. As I said, he's the owner of the Carolina Hurricanes. I think if you talk to Hurricanes fans, the team has performed very well in the 7 or so years that he's owned it. They have spent for players. There's certainly owners out there that buy teams and then contract the purse strings a little bit. He was not that way when he was in what he's done in Carolina. So that's one. He is an investor in pickleball as well. He's one of these new age sports owners. I call them kind of sports empires, but he has his hand in a number of different things, and suddenly the Trailblazers become the most valuable piece of his portfolio. But he does have the arena in Raleigh. There is a $1 billion mixed-use development that is happening around that arena right now. So again, he's someone that has spent up for the major team that he has owned prior, and has invested in the real estate component, which is critical in modern sports.
That checks a lot of boxes in terms of what this modern owner has to do to make sure that a team is successful. That's got to excite fans, I would imagine. Going into the sale, was there anything that stood out to you that was unique about this sale, other than it basically going to the highest bidder?
Yeah, I think you nailed it there. This is a very different process than if Paul Allen was still alive and was selling this as just a private business. This isn't a person selling it. This is an estate selling it. And typically the estate has a fiduciary duty to maximize the value of the asset. So very often we see in team sales, it doesn't necessarily go to the highest bidder. It goes to the bidder that the sellers like the most, the one they think is going to be the best steward for the team, the one that promises not to move the team. There's a lot of considerations in many franchise sales that get a little sanded down when you're talking about the estate. So that's the big thing that stands out to me. And we've seen this recently, the Denver Broncos, when they were sold to Jim Walton and Greg Penner, that was also an estate sale. That was Pat Boland's estate that was selling it. But yeah, these transactions are a little bit different and sometimes a little bit cleaner and a little simpler, again, because there is that fiduciary duty to maximize profit above all of the other considerations that an individual seller might have.
I know this is a conversation that you've been having for the past few months, especially when the Trailblazers were officially put up for sale. And as you mentioned off the top of this, just the concern that Trailblazers fans have for this team leaving and moving away. What insight can you give us on, why this makes sense and why this would keep the Trailblazers here, or whether or not you think, oh, this kind of leans towards the team moving?
So I'll give the bad news first. Tom Dundon is not Phil Knight, right? This is not a buyer that has deep ties to the region. And if Phil Knight bought this team, obviously it would be staying in Portland. He's a buyer that has a lot of money. The nexus of his current sports assets are very far away. And he owns an arena in a city that doesn't have an NBA team. So that's the bad news. Maybe the good news is that Raleigh is not high on the NBA's list of markets that it wants to put teams in. The NBA is beginning its expansion process right now to add a few teams. Seattle, I think, very high on the list there. Las Vegas, also very high on the list there. The NBA, from what I understand, really believes in Portland as a market. It has the benefit of not having a lot of pro sports competition. So it's not like there's an NFL team right there. It's not like there's a baseball team or a hockey team right there that is competing for dollars. So I think the NBA really does believe in the market with the right owner and with the right situation. I think a lot of this is going to come down to the arena. And I'm sure they'll seek public money. They'll likely seek public money. Who knows if they're going to get it? But I think a lot of this is going to come down to what it costs and how easy or how difficult is it to get a building in Portland done that is what a modern day 2026 NBA team needs. So look, I think if you're a local fan of this team, this is not the best possible news for you, but I don't think this is a blinking green indication that this team is leaving anytime soon.
I think a lot of people, when they thought about an ownership group, that it might come from Seattle or, one of the markets that's looking to get an NBA team. Did that surprise you at all that it came from basically, Dallas / Charlotte?
Yeah, it didn't shock me too much. Again, I think the NBA probably thinks about the Trailblazers as a separate process from its expansion. And I do think that Seattle is barring something crazy happening, is basically a shoe-in to get one of those expansion teams. And those teams will sell for more probably than $4.25 billion. So I think the NBA is kind of keeping Vegas and Seattle in its pocket, knowing that there's a big bunch of money there that's going to go to owners and it's going to come from groups. So I'm not necessarily surprised this didn't come from Seattle. I think that there maybe would have been maybe more of those blinking green lights if this was a Seattle ownership group. I think that would maybe said something else. But we've seen more and more that increasingly the people that buy sports teams are people that already own sports teams. And sometimes it's totally regional, but other times it's not. Stan Kroenke owns the NBA and hockey teams in Denver, but also owns the Rams in Los Angeles. So just because this guy has assets elsewhere does not mean that he's looking to combine them geographically. So in some ways, no, I'm not surprised that this is someone from outside. He's just a name that hadn't come up in my reporting at all. And I'd like to think that typically I have a finger on the pulse of who's kind of waiting on the sidelines. And this one, I will admit, took me by surprise.
Did the money make sense to you? I mean, it seems like every year the dollars go up, and obviously, the Celtics and then the Lakers being purchased for what they were just way up there. But
It's so true. It felt like not that long ago that Joe Lacob and Peter Guber bought the Warriors for like $450 million, and everyone said they were crazy, right? And then flash forward, Steve Ballmer buys the Clippers for $2 billion, and everyone says he's crazy. And then Matt Ishbia buys the Suns for $4 billion, and everyone says he's crazy. So I've learned, at least in this industry, that as much as the number wants to surprise me, I think I shouldn't be surprised by it. The Lakers deal, as you said there, $10 billion valuation, albeit for one of the two most valuable teams in the league. But if the Lakers are selling for $10 billion, yeah, there's no number that really surprises me as too high for any of these other franchises. There's just not that many of them. There's 30 NBA teams, and there will be more in the future, but there's not going to be that much more. So if Tom Dundon is sitting there and he says, I really want to buy an NBA team, he's not going to have that many shots at it, right? These teams don't sell all that often. And that drives up the price as well. So scarcity value, NBA business is obviously very solid as well. So there's a number of factors there. But yeah, if you had told me 3 years ago the Blazers would sell for $4.5 billion, I would have said that's crazy. But I've learned at least that all the numbers that shocked me, that I should just stop being so surprised in the future.
Kind of it getting to this point, because this was a necessary step, but we didn't have like a deadline, right?
No, there was no deadline, and it was an auction. So they must have felt that this was the strongest auction offer. And the way this works is the Paul G. Allen Foundation is trying to raise the most amount of money from the sale of the Trailblazers. So they must have felt like this was the strongest offer. It's a reported $4 billion. So I'm sure at that point they said, hey, this is the winner of the auction, and the news came out today.
What does this mean for the city and for the team?
We don't know yet, but based on Tom Dundon's track record in Carolina as the owner of the NHL's Carolina Hurricanes, this is a guy who bought the team in 2018, and the team had, I think, 9 losing seasons, and since 2018, they've made the playoffs every time. That's a good sign. He signed a 20-year lease upon buying the team in Carolina to keep the team in Carolina, and has done some real estate development around the arena. That's a good sign. So I think most Blazer fans want to know, is the team staying here? Will we have a new arena? Will there be some new development around the arena? And is our team going to be good? And is this owner going to spend money to get us to the playoffs and ultimately to a championship? And based on his track record in Carolina, he seems like a pretty invested owner.
The Blazers, they wanted to redo the arena, or the mayor and the city leaders had come on and said, hey, yes, we need a new arena, but we want to keep the Blazers here, so let's work together. Is that kind of like one of those where that needs to happen?
Yeah, I think what will need to be decided by new ownership is the Moda Center still okay to play in, or do you need a new arena? And the Moda Center is 30 years old on October 13th of this year. So that's a pretty outdated facility by most people's measure. I would think that the new owner would try and work with the state and the city of Portland to get a new arena. And the way things work now, if you look at like the Atlanta Braves, or even what this owner is doing in Carolina, it's not just about the arena, and it's not just about sporting events and concerts. It's about what's around the arena. So are there restaurants? Are there living spaces? Are there offices? You want to create a development and something that's vibrant even when there's not an event taking place in the arena.
Is this a win? The fact that there's a new ownership group coming in, potentially coming in?
I think it is. I think it's a win because this is someone who knows how to operate a team in a small market. It's someone who has invested money in the team before, the Carolina Hurricanes. He's also invested in Major League Pickleball and the Professional Pickleball Association. And I also feel like this team has been a little bit of a rudderless ship since Paul Allen died. And the foundation has been waiting for this day to sell the team. And now hopefully someone takes over who has a vision for the future and maybe, does a new arena and develops the land around the arena. I think there's a lot of reason to be excited if you're a Blazer fan.
If it's a new arena, is that a new location, or are they tearing down the Moda?
I don't know.
Yeah.
From everyone I've talked to, it would probably be a new location. It could be the Lloyd District. It could be somewhere else. But I don't know. There's a lot of arenas that are being torn down and renovated, so it's not brand new. It's a big renovation project. I don't know that would work here, but I'm not with the city and I'm not a real estate planner. But I bet if you ask the fans, they would like a more modern arena with more modern amenities and some arena that could attract events outside of just Blazer games, concerts, Final Fours, things of that nature, and obviously an arena for the WNBA team.
You said it was kind of a rudderless ship since Allen died. Comparing basically Paul Allen to what you know about the new guy, Tom Dundon, I believe so, I'm trying to remember his name. Are there similarities there, or are they two completely polar opposites? Because Allen, I know, loved basketball from what I remember. This guy, assuming he does the same, Allen, was he a spender? Is this guy more of a spender? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, is there something that fans can compare the two with, or compare and contrast?
I think they both seem heavily invested in winning and spending to win. Paul Allen was a billionaire and one of the wealthiest people in the world. I don't think Tom Dundon is in quite that class, but he still has a lot of money, obviously, if he's spending $4 billion reportedly to buy the Blazers. So I think there are similarities. Tom Dundon is 53 years old. He lives in Dallas, so he's also an out-of-town owner like Paul Allen was. But from what I've heard, there are others who would be part of this investment group that do have Portland ties. So maybe there's some people here locally that would kind of shepherd everything along. I've also heard that Tom Dundon is someone who likes to hire people and let them do their jobs, which is also a good sign. And all owners like to meddle to some level, but I think people like to know they're working for someone that will just let them do their jobs.
So he's no Jerry Jones.
No. Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
What do you know about the owner, Tom Dundon?
I know that he is very well liked out in North Carolina. Obviously, he was able to turn the Carolina Hurricanes into such a successful franchise. And honestly, they are the best professional team in North Carolina. So, I've never met him, but from a fan perspective, he is very, very well liked in North Carolina.
He's turned the team around too, from what I understood. So kind of, and I say that speaking to like the winning culture that he's trying to bring in.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. The winning culture that he's just able to instill. He knows what it takes to get the right guys in to make that winning culture. I mean, we just saw it last year with Eric Tolsky. He just hired this random guy that has no hockey background, and everyone was like, what are you doing here? Then they make it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. So, he might not have the most traditional ways about going about building teams, but he knows what he's doing. I mean, he's had teams that have made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. So, if you want a successful guy owning your team, you got him.
I was going to say, kind of really the last thing I'll wrap up with is what fans should be excited about if this sale sale goes through.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just touch on it. The winning culture, I think that's what people should be excited about. Like I just mentioned, he knows what to do to get to the teams, to go to the NBA Finals. We've seen him do it in hockey. So just seeing this new, fresh energy come in, and he's a guy, I've seen him go in and out of the Carolina Hurricanes locker rooms after every single game. So having a guy who is involved and wants to be around the team, wants to be around the fans, I think there's a lot that Trailblazer fans should be really excited about.
Is he engaged with the fans?
I think so. I mean, I've never met him, but that's because I'm not there all the time. But, he sends out messages to fans every now and then, and we see him around the team. So he's involved, very involved. So I think that if you want that hands-on guy, he's the perfect guy for you.
I love this team. I love going to as many games as I can.
Lifelong?
Yes, lifelong. Didn't go to my first game until I was, I think, 15, 16. My dad's car broke down on the way to the game. We actually got dropped off by a towing car, and that's how I got to my first Blazer game.
So you've been a fan underneath the entire Allen ownership?
Yes.
Or right
Yes.
around there?
Yes.
What do you make of that ownership group?
It's kind of a tough one. A little bit of some good moments, some bad moments. Definitely feels like we've had a great relationship, and we thank the Allen family for all of they've done for us and kind of getting the Blazers to where they are now. But I think it's time we take the next step to kind of a better future for the Blazers.
Were they a cheap ownership group? Maybe not cheap, but like...
Not necessarily cheap, but definitely not the easiest to drop some money on players. I would say that for sure. I think that's what caused Portland to have a reputation of small market, not a lot of players wanting to come down here. So that definitely hasn't helped either. But I think the hope is that now we might be able to spend a little more, or the owner might feel more comfortable spending more.
What did you think of today's news?
I was surprised. I was happy. It feels like a big weight off of Trailblazer fans' shoulders to finally have this done and focus on the season coming up and just focus just on the games, on the players, not having to worry about what's going to happen to the team, what's going to happen with the ownership. So big weight off the shoulders, and now just hoping that the new owner also has the same belief of keeping Portland here or keeping the Blazers here in Portland.
I was going to say, because he's an outside owner. I mean, over there in Carolina,
Yeah.
they have a team, but
Yeah, that was one of the first things. As soon as I saw the news come in, I got on and started researching both social media, Google, anything that I could find. And the word is he's a guy that likes the teams to stay where they are. He has done a great job over at his current team with the Hurricanes. Focused a lot on just maintaining the team there, building the community, and that team has been doing really good since he's been taking over. So good hopes for the Blazers.
what's your expectation with the new ownership group?
New ownership group, expectation is that we kind of help reinforce this team, make even more improvements to Moda. I think they are far beyond what we need to get done, and I think more star power, hopefully. We have a solid team, we have an amazing roster, we have Dame back, which is a huge thing, so I think just building around that, and then hopefully just teams or players feeling more comfortable kind of coming to Portland, and hopefully eventually getting rid of that like small market mentality that a lot of people put on Portland.
And then finally, what are you hearing from other fans, once the news broke?
A little bit of both, but I think overall the main consensus is we're excited that the Blazers are finally sold. Again, thank you to the Allen family for everything they've done for us, but I think it's a great step for the Blazers now to move forward, have a new owner with a good track record, and hopefully someone that's excited to keep Portland here, is excited to build on Rip City, and like Dame said in his press conference, it's Blazers time to win, so I'm excited that we can start doing that and focus on that with a new owner.